First fight of the night, we got a heavyweight fight. Austin Lane taking on Robelis Despain. And Robelis Despain, I mean, he was all the rage just before his last fight. Everyone was talking about him as potentially being someone that could be a player in this division. I mean, he had in Fury, a 3-second knockout, a 4-second knockout. He was just taking these guys out like it was absolutely nothing. And came in the UFC, got the win in his debut, but super exposed in his last fight where he made Waldo Cortez Acosta, who we all know is kind of just like a low-level, mid-tier boxer, look like a high-level wrestler in their fight and couldn't get up off his back, and just horrible. It just kind of exposed that he's still very green and can't get you out of there quick. It's probably not going to be a good night for him versus most fighters. But in this fight, he's taking on Austin Lane. And Austin Lane, former NFL player, so you'd think he'd be like a super athlete, but the guy's real slow on the feet, man, and very hittable, no chin. He wrestled a little bit in his last fight, but I feel like he just doesn't have the fight IQ, doesn't have that, whatever it is, he doesn't have that extra gear inside him to just do it, man. I feel like he's not a UFC level fighter, and I know this isn't like a super high level breakdown or anything, but I just don't think Lane is very good. I feel like his wrestling is decent, but he doesn't believe in it for 3 rounds. He might get a takedown and control for a round, but I just think eventually he's going to get knocked out. And honestly, I don't think he's going to get a takedown in the fight. I think Despain's going to catch him early, like he has the majority or all the other guys that he's defeated, and get back on the track here. But this is like a nothing of a fight. I mean, if Austin Lane comes in here and could take him down in the first round, then you definitely don't want to have that Despain ticket where he's like a minus 450 or whatever he's at right now. But betting Austin Lane, I mean, I would never advise that. So, yeah, just horrible fight to kick off the card in my opinion, but I'm going to go with Despain via first round knockout. Fight number 2, we got Elise Ardeline taking on Melissa Martinez, 2 0-1 fighters. Elise Ardeline, she debuted in July, and she stepped in on short notice. She fought Shauna Bannon, lost a split decision, and I feel like she performed better than most expected her to, but now it's just to put up or shut up, avoid going 0-2. Melissa Martinez on the other side, she was the favorite in her UFC debut against Elise Reed. She actually had a little bit of hype, and she had a lackluster performance, took the L, and she hasn't fought in 2 years. She had surgery on her knee to take care of pretty significant issues. She basically totally blew out her knee. She had a torn PCL, ACL, meniscus, so only 27 years old. You'd think she could bounce back from that well, but it's a long layoff. It was a bad injury, and we'll see how she does, because her bread and butter is her striking and being able to move, be light on her feet. She has years of taekwondo under her belt and really fast kicks. She has that great lead leg dexterity and throws a lot of lead leg kicks to all parts of the body, straight punch blitzes, and kind of will try to land that lead hook and angle away. And fast feet, she is evasive. She kind of just wants to point fight you from the outside, eventually maybe pull you into a head kick and get you out of there that way. But in brawling range or in the pocket, she isn't that good. And she is small for the weight class. She's not a good wrestler or grappler. I've noticed that she has been doing a lot of strength and conditioning training on her IG, but I just still believe she's going to be the physically weaker fighter. And in her fight with Desiree Yanez before she made it to the UFC, she arguably lost that fight. She was held against the fence for a lot of the match and taken down, held down. But she is fairly athletic. She can create some scrambles, but better wrestlers are going to be able to dominate her more than likely. And I just don't have much faith in that changing, because Martinez doesn't train with one of the major gyms in Mexico, and her gym is more a karate taekwondo gym. So I believe in her fight with Elise Reed. That would have been the fight where if she was going to use the wrestling, which she tried to and was ineffective, that's where it would have happened, because Elise Reed is a very porous wrestler. But she got out-grappled by Elise Reed, who obviously struggles mightily in that area versus Mo. So it just shows where Martinez is at there. But cardio for Martinez is a plus. I mean, she does train at elevation. And then her opponent, Elise Ardeline, I would say she's getting a good matchup here because, well, not necessarily a good matchup like style-wise. I think they're evenly matched. But what I'm trying to say is her last opponent, Shauna Bannon, I think had a very similar style to Melissa Martinez. So she's getting to fight this same kind of Taekwondo style back to back. She'll probably have a little bit better of idea of how to grapple it. But in round one of her fight with Shauna Bannon, Ardeline did what I think she should do in this fight, and that's get a takedown in the clinch. She controlled on top for nearly the entire round. And if she's smart, I anticipate that's going to be her game plan in this fight. She should have the edge in terms of wrestling against the fence, and if she can get the body lock and get on top, I see her being able to hold Martinez down. And on the feet, she isn't bad. Ardeline has good pressure. She'll throw some hard punches, but she's just a little hittable, and I feel like she can get caught chasing sometimes, so Martinez might be able to get slightly ahead in the stand-up, but Ardeline's game plan, in my opinion, will be to use her pressure to open up the takedown. And I think from there she'll be able to either get on top or control against the fence. But I don't think a finish is likely for Ardeline in the grappling, but I think she should be able to control there. And Ardeline's cardio should be better in this fight. She's had more time to prepare than her UFC debut. And in her debut, she did get tired in the third round. But honestly, I thought that it was a close fight and she could have easily won. I think Ardeline will take this one. I mean, Martinez, she hasn't won a fight in a long time. She hasn't fought in over 2 years. She lost her debut, so I think it's been since 2021 she's won a fight. She's fought some real low-level competition for the most part, and then when she stepped up, fought Elise Reed, she didn't look the greatest. I don't know exactly how she's going to bounce back from these injuries, so I just think Ardeline should be the favorite in this contest, and I'm going to pick her to get the win. We got another women's fight in this next one. We got Jessica Penne and Elise Reed, who are both coming off long layoffs. They both haven't fought in over a year. Jessica Penne, she last fought March 4th of 2023, lost to Tabitha Ricci. Elise Reed, she fought September 16th, 2023, and got submitted by Lupe Godinez. So Jessica Penne, she's lost 2 in a row. She actually hasn't won since August of 2021, and she's almost 42 years old at this point. She's 41 years old, coming off a year and 7-month long layoff, so all that is definitely not in her favor. And Elise Reed, she had 3 fights in 2023. She went 1-2, so even though she hasn't had a fight in over a year, she has been a little bit more active, and Penne is 10 years older than Elise Reed. I don't think people give enough credit to Penne for how she's looked since coming back. I mean, she had that long battle with USADA where she was suspended for over 4 years, and she was unable to compete like 2017 to 2021, and she was able to come back at like 37 years old, and she got a couple big wins over Lupe Godinez, over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She had a competitive fight with Emily Ducote. Her last fight with Tabitha Ricci, she got dominated, but I think she's proven, at least even at her advanced age, that she's still viable. But now it's been another long layoff, and we don't know exactly when she's going to go in there and just look terrible. So that could be a potential issue here. But Penne, I feel like the game plan for her is going to be pretty obvious. She's going to have to get it to the ground. I mean, her stand-up has improved. She has a great chin, long reach. She'll throw front kicks, 1-2s, 1-1-2s. But she's going to be far slower than Elise Reed. I think Reed is going to use that pressure, land, be able to touch, and then get Penne to throw and then counter off the back foot. And I don't think Reed will be very dangerous in terms of finishing, but she probably should land more and land cleaner. But if Penne can get it to the mat, then she's going to likely be able to get the submission. I mean, she has a slick submission game, and Elise Reed to me has subpar wrestling, kind of really bad grappling. She's been submitted twice in the UFC by more striking-based opponents. But Panay doesn't really have that takedown ability anymore. I mean, she hasn't gotten a takedown in a long time. I know they said that she got a takedown versus KK, but if you go back and watch that fight versus Carolina, Panay, she either got slipped or something happened where she ended up on her back, and Carolina followed her to the ground, and Panay was able to reverse and get on top, and then eventually got the armbar. So unless Elise Reed makes a mistake, like fight IQ wise, and tries to grapple with Panay early on when Panay actually has her freshest cardio, I think that she could get submitted. So I mean, I would never go out there and bet on Elise Reed at minus 180. I feel like that's a little bit overkill, but she's fighting someone that's pretty old and she should win. I mean, I'm going to say Elise Reed gets the win via decision, but this fight to me is kind of it's a tricky one. I definitely could see Jessica Panay pulling it out.
And they're stacking it with female fights early. The next fight, Jocelyn Edwards versus Tamaris Vidal. Not too interested in this fight, man, honestly. I feel like Edwards is better and definitely should win. I've never been a fan of Vidal. If you've watched my channel, I picked her to beat Ramona Pascual, but actually have cashed on her in her last two losses. And I just feel like on the feet, she's a brawler. She'll throw that overhand and some leg kicks. Maybe the leg kicks will be effective. And if Edwards just sits in the pocket with her and they exchange overhands, I mean, Vidal could hurt her potentially. But Edwards is the better athlete. She moves better. She has a lot better kicks. I think that attacking the body on Vidal is going to be something that could be very effective, get Vidal tired and potentially hurt her to the body where I think she's a little soft. And I think that Edwards could get takedowns as well in the clinch if she really wanted to. We did see her get reversed a few times against Nora Cornell when she got the takedowns, but at least she showed that she had some improvements in her grappling. And her last fight with Aline Perez was fairly close. It was competitive. So I just feel like Edwards is better than her, but when you're looking at that line, I don't know how anyone could bet Edwards at like minus 260. I feel like she, on the feet, is low volume at times and can allow her opponents to compete with her even when she's significantly better as a striker. And she can get taken down, even though I don't think Vidal will be able to do that. But even on the ground, like I said, she was getting reversed by Cornell. And, I mean, Vidal could get a leg lock, something stupid. But I think Edwards is going to win this fight. Should win this fight and should be the favorite. But, I mean, I wouldn't be parlaying Edwards at that number personally. And this next fight, we have excellent matchmaking, in my opinion, with Brad Katona, a respected veteran, kind of a little bit in no man's land. He won the Ultimate Fighter for the second time, got back in the UFC, had a banger versus Cody Gibson. And at that point, he had some momentum. He got a showcase fight where he got to fight in his home country of Canada against Garrett Armfield. And he took the loss in that one, though, and it really dropped his stock. But Katona bounced back. He got a win in a tune-up fight versus Jesse Butler. And now he's getting anything but a tune-up fight against a 15-0 young, hungry prospect. And this is the fight for Gene Matsumoto to prove that he deserves a shot at the top 15 by beating a gatekeeper. And Katona is 32, so he has to win this fight, kind of set back this young kid and show that he's still there in the weight class. Matsumoto is 1-0 in the UFC, and obviously Katona has a lot more experience than that, but I feel like they have a similar amount of fights, and Matsumoto actually has fought good competition outside of the octagon. So I think that both guys have tested themselves well. And when you look at this fight, I feel like Matsumoto has done well versus Brad Katona's style in the past. He's been able to go in there, stuff takedowns in his last fight against Dan Argueta. Or not even stuff takedowns. I guess he did get taken down quite a few times, but he was able to continue to get back up, eventually gas Argueta out with this pressure and offense, and then get that submission. And on the feet, I just favor Matsumoto. I think that he's going to be throwing the straighter punches. He's going to be throwing more volume with more heat and intention. He's going to be mixing in the low kicks. And Katona, he comes with that big hook and the overhands, kind of big power hooks. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think that Matsumoto is going to be able to get the range and land cleaner and more often and heavier. And Katona is very durable, so I think it's going to be hard for Matsumoto to finish him. But I just feel like he's going to do more on the feet. Katona is going to try to make the fight boring by pushing Matsumoto against the cage, mixing in some takedowns. But as I stated, I feel like Matsumoto has fought wrestlers that are better than Brad Katona and been able to perform well against them. So I think that he's going to be able to maneuver that. And cardio-wise, both guys have very good gas tanks. So Katona isn't going to be able to come in here and weaponize the cardio and kind of wear on the younger fighter, I don't believe. I think that Matsumoto is going to be right there with him. So I like Matsumoto in this matchup. I think it's his fight to prove that he's ready for bigger and better things, and I think he's going to do it. So Matsumoto is the pick for me, and I'm going to pick him to get this win via decision.
And up next, we got the first fight between ranked fighters on this card, Mateus Nicolau and Asu Amabayev. And just before we get into this breakdown, put a comment down below. Do you agree with my prediction so far? Do you disagree? And put a like on the video. Let's try to get to as many likes as possible, man. Anyone that could hit that like button, help me out, I would really appreciate it. So put a like on the video, put a comment down below, and let's get into this matchup here. But Mateus Nicolau versus Asu Amabayev, two fighters kind of going in opposite directions. Nicolau, super veteran at this stage, probably one of the only flyweights left in the UFC that could say they were in the UFC in 2015. And he isn't even that old. He's only 31, so he has a lot of tread on the tires. He's got knocked out in his last two fights, but he still has the physical capability to bounce back if he can. And prior to those knockout losses, he had won 4 fights in a row. And this is kind of a make-or-break fight for him, though, because he is a high-level fighter, but he struggled at the very, very top. So if he loses to Amabayev, he's kind of fresh in the UFC, signed in 2023, only 3-0. It could be, a pretty difficult loss for Nicolau, especially with it being his third fight in a row that he's lost. And I feel like this is a difficult fight to parse here, a pass in my opinion from a betting perspective. If anything, I would say Nicolau as the dog is the side, but I just don't have a lot of interest in him. Both these guys are extremely low volume on the feet. Nicolau may be slightly better with his stand-up, but he really is very conservative. He works the jab to the body, the leg kicks. He'll throw that lead hook. That's probably his best punch. Some counters, but just not active. And Albayev throws very little on the feet outside of kicks. Really relies on wrestling, and his hands are wild. Nicolau isn't really someone who's going to pressure, I don't think, or be super active. So it's going to be low volume, and it's going to be close on the feet probably. Amabayev is a bit wild sometimes, but that could be beneficial for him in this fight if it's not that much action. And I think Amabayev is going to be able to hit a single leg or two, or at least control Nicolau against the cage. Nicolau has only been taken down one time in his UFC career, but Tim Elliott did control him against the fence for some portions of their fight. I really could see this fight going either way, but I'm going to say Amabayev wins a decision here. I think he needs to trust his striking a little bit. If he's way too one-track minded and just feels with the wrestling, it could look bad on the judges' scorecards and he could take a loss. But I just feel like he's going to be the more active guy. I think he will have faith, throw some kicks, let his hands go a little bit, and open up the wrestling and just do a little bit more and get this victory. So Asu Amabayev is going to be the prediction for me. And kicking off the main card, every hardcore fan's excited for this one. Darren Elkins taking on Daniel Pineda, two old warhorses that are going to put on a show for us. And Daniel Pineda, I would say, is much more of a journeyman. I think Darren Elkins has had the more illustrious career. Pineda, he had a short stint with the UFC from 2012 to 2014, and a long time away, returned to the promotion in August of 2020. And he's gone 2-3-1 in his 5 fights since coming back. Overall, he's 5-7-1 in 13 UFC fights.
Darren Elkins, he's been a UFC lifer pretty much. He signed with the promotion in 2010, and he's been with them ever since. And he's earned that nickname, The Damage. I mean, he spilled arguably more blood in the octagon than any other fighter in UFC history. And he's been extremely successful. He's 18-10 in 28 UFC fights. He's been ranked in the top 10. He's fought some of the best fighters in the world, coming off a win last October. And it's been a year for him outside the cage, but he's coming back in here trying to get a W, some quick cash. And, his style's been the same since he's joined the UFC, Darren Elkins. He's going to look to grind you into the dirt. And if you can't stop it, it's going to be a long night for you. Elkins has made strides on the feet, but his striking is never going to be great. I mean, southpaw, 1-1-2, some 3-2s, the overhand right. But he isn't fast. He isn't powerful. Doesn't have the best defense. Kind of a punching bag, but he has great durability. He has an endless gas tank. He's relentless. And great timing on the double. If he can get that clinch, he can chain wrestle against the fence really well. His wrestling can get a little sloppy, but he's relentless. He can break opponents. And on top, he either likes to stay heavy in half guard and chip away, or jump on your back at that body triangle and choke you out. And he has active ground and pound. And I feel like in order to beat Elkins, you either have to be able to out-grapple him or work those straight punches, kicks up the middle, leg kicks, stuff the shots. And for Pineda, I think he's going to have to go the second route, which is the harder route. But Daniel the Pit Pineda, super strong physical grappler. On the feet, he's powerful but wild. He throws hard kicks and kind of big power punches, subpar defense. He does have the power to knock out Elkins if he connects, but I feel like it's probably going to devolve into more of a wrestling grappling match. Elkins, I think, is going to force some exchanges and then look to level change under them. And Pineda's hard to take down and even harder to hold down. He even sometimes will throw these kicks where I think he knows he's going to end up on his back in order to scramble to top position. And he's been able to defeat a lot of grinders. He's done really well versus fighters with Elkins' style. His guillotine is nasty. Obviously, I mean, this guy has 28 wins, 28 finishes. And with Elkins, I mean, that's interesting because Elkins is a guy that's known as a, never say die fighter who's only been submitted once against Charles Oliveira. He's been finished 4 other times via strikes, but it just takes a lot to take him out of there. And then Pineda's 0-7 in decisions, but you look at Pineda, I mean, that's a little bit of he lost to Cobb, he lost to Andre Fili. I don't think anyone is going to say those guys are comparable. And Nathaniel Wood, I mean, much better striking, and it was a way different matchup than Elkins is going to be. You look at his other losses, a lot of his decision losses, the other 4 are over 10 years ago, and he's been not going the distance in the majority of his fights. But I do believe that people aren't giving him enough credit for his conditioning. If it's more of a wrestling cardio grappling fight, I think Pineda will be able to compete and be just fine cardio-wise, because I've never seen him get tired in that kind of fight, really. And I slightly lean with Pineda. I think he's the stronger and bigger fighter. I feel like he has the superior grappling. Wrestling, Elkins probably has the edge there, but I just don't think Pineda is just going to get grinded out. I think Pineda either gets a guillotine or a sub in a scramble or wins a decision for the very first time in his career. I feel a Pineda decision bet could be sneaky, and I'm going to predict Pineda actually wins in a close decision here in this fight. And up next, we got Charles Johnson and Sumari fighting each other, and this is a good one, man. I mean, Charles Johnson has been looking really good recently. I kind of expected he would have got a better opponent, but I think Johnson, he just wants to stay active, fight, and so they have to line him up with whoever, and it's not like they're giving him a slouch. Sumari is a good fighter as well, kind of one-dimensional and has been a flop in the UFC, but he's still young and has time to turn that around. Charles, very well-rounded guy, obviously has great striking. His last fight, he went out there and was able to knock out Joshua Van, who's a really good young prospect. And this one was Sumari. I mean, Sumari is a slick southpaw, and I think that clearly Sumandarji is dangerous on the feet. He's long, he's fast, he has good timing, he can catch you with that straight left, he can land nice kicks, nice knees. And even though I think Charles Johnson is probably the superior striker overall, especially over 15 minutes, the path to least resistance here is to get the takedowns. And I think that Johnson will be able to mix it up, hit those body locks. He has some nice body lock takedowns, and his grappling is solid. I think he can get a front choke. I think that Sumandarji kind of leaves submissions out there. So I think that Johnson could go out there, get his first submission in the UFC, and I think it's something that maybe he would be interested in doing. I think he's one of these guys that wants to check things off his bucket list. He thrives on being well-rounded and wanting people to know that he could do it all. And I believe that getting a submission in the UFC would be a cool thing for him. So this would be the fight to do it. Maybe it's a good prop to target, and I think Charles Johnson's going to win this fight here. And this next one is kind of a sad matchup for me. Ralph Font, one of my favorite fighters that I've been watching for a long time. He's won me a lot of money in certain matchups and definitely is a legend, but I just feel like 37 years old. This is a hard fight, man. Taking on Kyler Phillips. Font, 2 losses in a row. He hasn't been looking great recently. And Kyler Phillips is very good. He's dynamic on the feet. I feel like he's going to be moving around too much. He's going to have too many weapons. I think he could switch stance and kind of play those tricky games and feints and do enough to take away the jab and the boxing that Font likes. And Font does hit like a truck, and obviously he's still motivated to come in here and put it down versus some really tough guys, but his wrestling has looked really weak recently. He's been getting taken down very easily. I wouldn't be shocked that Kyler goes in here, just takes him down, holds him down for 3 rounds, especially if Font striking it isn't looking too bad. But, yeah, I mean, I just think this is Kyler's fight to lose. Kyler has had some issues in previous fights where he's done well early, got tired, and ended up losing. But that's normally against guys that try to take him down. And I don't think Font's going to do that. On the feet, I just don't think Font has enough weapons or is at the age where he can do what he has to do to wear on Phillips and take the damage he has to take to get this job done. I think Phillips could potentially win inside the distance, but one thing about Ralph Font is the guy's never been knocked out in his career. He's been dropped a lot, he's been hurt, but he's always finds a way to survive. And Ralph Font's one of these guys that, like, man, this guy is elite cardio and recoverability because he'll get dropped twice, be like dead to rights. The round will be over, he comes back after that minute break, and he's whooping the guy's ass again in the beginning of the round. So he definitely is a very tough guy, but I just think time waits for no man, and I think that Ralph Font is kind of on the other end of it. I think Phillips is going to be better everywhere. He's going to be more athletic. He's going to be throwing more. And I just feel like Ralph Font at this point is probably coming in here to make some money, roll the dice, see what happens. But I just think Kyler Phillips is the more hungry guy that's likely going to get this victory. And finally, we got the main event, guys. We got a fight that I've been looking forward to since it's been announced. I think this is an amazing fight. I think it's a sleeper fight. It's a banger. 2 guys that I think are 2 of the most fun guys to watch at 185, which is kind of a dual division at the top to me a little bit. So yeah, man, right before we get into this breakdown, hit the like button, put a comment down below about my picks so far, but excited to break this one down. I feel like, honestly, man, I know there's people ahead of him, Nasrina Mavov, I think a couple other people that are kind of eluding me right now that are ahead of Pereira and Hernandez. But if Michel goes out here and blasts Anthony Hernandez in the first round, how sick would it be to see a Dricus versus Pereira title fight or Strickland versus Pereira title fight? I would be down for that. But yeah, man, I mean, we kind of all know how this matchup is and what both guys have to do to be successful. They're both streaking. Anthony Hernandez has won 5 fights in a row. Michel Pereira has won 8 fights in a row. And Pereira's just looked like a demon at 185. He's went in there and took in most of these guys out in under a minute. Hernandez, he's someone that he kind of relies on taking that damage up front, showing you that you can't finish him. He can eat everything that you're going to give him, breaking you. and then taking you out later on. And with Pereira has those front kicks to the body. He has just the straight punches that he's been throwing, the spin kicks, just the dynamic attacks that he has as well. And early on, if Hernandez is eating damage, I don't know if he's going to be able to survive that and come out the other side with the cardio and everything that he's had in other fights, or even be able to survive it at all. And we've seen Hernandez previously get finished to the body in multiple fights against good kickers. Kevin Holland, he lost to Marcus Perez back in the day. And he's been getting hurt in his fights recently, but he's just able to dog it out, battle through it. And, I mean, when he gets into that zone where his opponent is slowing down and he's going up, he's super hard to beat. I mean, the guy has great wrestling. He's relentless. He's going to push an insane pace. His confidence is, through the roof. And when he gets on top of you, he's going to pound you out until he can find that finish, or you want to go home and you give him a submission. And with Pereira, it's just, man, I think this is for both guys, this is a very difficult matchup, because obviously if Michel gets even one iota tired, Hernandez is going to capitalize on that. He's going to take him down. He's going to wear on him, and he's going to probably finish him. But Hernandez has to close the distance on a guy that hits like a Mack truck, that's super fast, dynamic, that has extremely dangerous weapons up the middle, that's going to be attacking the body, that also has a black belt in jiu-jitsu that's hard to take down, isn't just going to be an easy takedown, that had heart and enough cardio to go 3 rounds in hard fights at 170. So at 185, I think that his cardio is going to be better. I mean, the guy doesn't have to cut 15 pounds of weight. I know it's 2 extra rounds, and that's what makes the fight even more interesting for me. But another thing with Pereira that I think he has a chance to get is a guillotine in this fight. I feel like that's very live. We've seen him choke guys to sleep lately. And Hernandez, if you watch fight with Edmund Shabazian, he was in a deep guillotine. He's been guillotined before. And I think Pereira could get an early submission, an early knockout. I'm kind of leaning with the Pereira side here. I feel like Michel Pereira is going to be the prediction for me as the underdog, especially. Hernandez could go in there and, break Pereira, take some damage early, start taking him down and finish him. But I just think that Michel Pereira is going to take him out early like he's been doing recently. The lines came way down. He was like plus 170, I believe. Now he's like plus 115. I feel like this should be a pick'em, so it's getting close to accurate for me. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Michel Pereira to get the first or second round submission. I'm going to say he gets a guillotine win in this fight, and that's going to be my prediction. So thanks for watching, guys. Full card prediction breakdown for UFC Vegas 99. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. Hit that like button. Put a comment down below, and for my parlay of the week this week, I'm going to go with the parlay of Kyler Phillips and Gene Matsumoto. And my most confident pick on the card this week, I'll say, is Kyler Phillips. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be back soon breaking down fights once again. If I get 5 comments asking me to put out the PFL breakdown, I will do it. So 5 comments down below asking me to put out the PFL video. If you're interested in that, I'll put it out if you guys put those 5 comments. And besides that, man, patreon.com/predictionguru. Go over there, support the channel, sign up, make yourself some money on the betting. We've won 4 events in a row. We barely profited on Contender Series, but there's a lot of events to bet on for the rest of the week, and we're going to make some money this week. So go over to patreon.com/predictionguru, sign up. And, yeah, guys, I'll be back soon. Later.